Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing the Joe Rogan problem in the UFC. And no, it is not Joe Rogan's terrible commentary or his terrible UFC takes that he has. This video is going to be talking about how Joe Rogan will just glaze the most random fighter so much, he'll literally just praise him for like 5 minutes straight, and then by the end of it, you'll think that this fighter is some like double champion, the GOAT of the sport. You'll just think this guy is super good, but in reality, he's actually not that good. And Joe Rogan does this more times than like you would think. He does it quite a bit. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now you might be thinking, oh well, come on. Joe Rogan is a massive part of the sport. He's probably just promoting these fighters and making it seem like the UFC has like all these amazing fighters, which they do. The UFC has a lot of like top level fighters, but they also have a lot of fighters that absolutely suck. I don't know if you guys saw the Torres Finney fight, I think that's his name, but he straight up avoided the fight for 15 minutes long, and he's like some prospect in the middleweight division. He is terrible and he shouldn't be under contract. But you know, it is what it is. Well, come on. It's not that big of a deal. He's just like glazing these fighters, but it doesn't really matter, does it? Wrong. This does matter. It matters because now there's just this new generation of UFC fans that aren't even fans. You can call them casuals, but I honestly think casuals know more than them. They're like the base level. Like they're just like one level above casual, and then you work your way down to elite status. That's where I am. But like, they just don't know anything about the sport, and they only watch the sport through TikTok edits and Instagram reels and YouTube shorts. And in a lot of those edits, it will start with like a clip of Joe Rogan saying, "Oh, he is the biggest what if, man. I wish this guy continued fighting. He is so technical. He's such a good fighter. He picks his shots. He does all this, all that." And then he'll be talking about like a terrible fighter. Like the fighter he's talking about is not good at all, but he'll just say it's good. And now we have all these fans that whenever there's a post about like Zabib or something, there'll be all these fans saying, "Oh, he's the biggest what if. Oh, he was so good. Oh, he's so amazing." In reality, Zabib sucks. And that's actually going to be the first guy we talk about. Zabib, I'm not even going to attempt his last name. He is like the very first fighter you learn about through TikTok. They literally call him the biggest what if. Yeah, he's done a lot of crazy stuff in the sport. If you watch a couple of his fights, you see that he does do crazy stuff. But in reality, think about who he's fighting. He's fighting absolute cans. And the biggest point of all of this is that Zabib actually had terrible cardio. He literally only had like 2 rounds in him until he pretty much just could not fight. And did you know that Zabib was a part of like one of the only like 4 or 3 main events that was only 3 rounds? Pretty strange, right? It's almost like if the UFC knew that Zabib had terrible cardio, but they wanted to build him up as this massive superstar, which I guess he kind of is just through like lies, but they wanted to build him up so much, but they didn't want anyone to see that he had terrible cardio. So they were like, oh, just make it 3 rounds so they don't see it as much. Pretty strange, isn't it, that the UFC like covers that by like just lying to you? But it is what it is. The UFC is corrupt. It's sad to say, but it is. And here's even a couple clips of the legendary Joe Rogan praising the biggest what if in the entire UFC. Take a listen.
That guy was fucking good, man.
He did some cool shit, yeah.
Ooh, he did some wild shit. Yeah,
man.
wild kicks, man. And he could do anything. And he's just so clever. So clever and creative and such an interesting fighter to watch. I was bummed out, man. Like really bummed out when that guy retired.
Now you might be thinking, well, if Zabib actually wasn't that good and he's pretty trash, then why did Joe Rogan feel the need to praise him so much? Well, to be honest with you, I actually have no idea on why Joe Rogan does this. My only theory is that it's because Zabib is like from Dagestan, and Dagestan has a lot of like top fighters. So Joe Rogan felt the need to hype him up back when he was in the sport. He's not fighting anymore. He became a doctor. So like good for him. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Zabib. I'm just saying he's not as good as Joe Rogan or the TikTok fans think he is. Now let's talk about Jai Herbert, and this is specifically after the fight with Ilia Topuria when Jai Herbert head kicks Ilia Topuria and almost knocks him out. Joe Rogan glazes Jai Herbert so much in this clip, I'll just show you guys it right now.
Jai Herbert is a nasty stand-up fighter. He's so good. He's real slick. He's real good stand-up, like real sharp stand-up. And he caught Topuria with the perfect head kick.
He actually describes Jai Herbert like he could kill Islam Makhachev in a fight. He glazes him so much. The pitch perfect head kick. No, first of all, it wasn't the pitch perfect, because if it would have knocked Ilya out. But if you guys have seen Jai Herbert fight in any other fight than this one, Jai Herbert is trash. He barely throws any punches. He's just not that good. And it's actually a low-key embarrassing that Ilya he almost got knocked out by Jai Herbert. And this is why I think that Ilia Topuria might have some trouble up at lightweight. And I got roasted for that, for saying that bit. I'm going to stand my ground, and I think it is true. But speaking of Ilia Topuria, he was on Joe Rogan recently, and I didn't really want to watch it because I was thinking, Ilia Topuria has kind of been too cocky for me. He's kind of been a bit too arrogant. I just thought he was gonna be up here, and he's gonna be have a bunch of ego. But I thought, hey, maybe Joe Rogan will pull him back down. But in reality, it was actually Joe Rogan saying the crazy stuff, and it was Ilia Topuria who was trying to bring him down. Joe Rogan has such awful UFC takes, but this video is not about that. So let's move right on to the next person he glazes. And that person is the legendary female fighter, Ronda Rousey. This might be Joe Rogan's favorite person to glaze, at least back in the day. There are so many clips of him glazing her, and it honestly makes you think that maybe Joe Rogan was in love with Ronda Rousey with how much he talks about her. There's even a clip of him crying when he was talking about something Ronda Rousey did. I don't know what she did, but Joe Rogan was legit tearing up. Did you guys know that there was a clip where Joe Rogan says that Ronda Rousey would have a very good chance and would most likely beat majority of the bantamweight fighters at the time? Male fighters. Bantamweight male fighters. He thinks that Ronda Rousey could go into a male division and beat majority of the fighters. Which, I don't want to get controversial on you guys. That is just not true. And if you don't believe me, someone who's in his room right now talking about UFC, take it from Jorge Masvidal.
If you get a top 15 in there with the best girl in the world, she's done.
Destroy him, yeah. Not even close.
It's not even close.
And the girls aren't going to either. It's not disrespecting the girls.
It's not. They know it.
They
know
understand
it.
This was such a crazy thing for Joe Rogan to say, just because of how false it is. He only said it purely because either A, he's in love with Ronda Rousey, which he could be, or B, he's just being stupid, which it also could be. That could very possibly be the case. But there's no way Ronda Rousey could move up and beat any male fighter. There were just so many people talking about how good Ronda Rousey is back in the day. People were saying, her boxing is better than Floyd Mayweather's, where it's just not. No MMA fighter's boxing is better than Floyd Mayweather's. I don't even like Floyd, but I'm also just not an idiot. But anyways, let's just move on to the next fighter. And that next fighter is Justin the Highlight Gaethje. Now, I actually like Justin Gaethje, and I think he's a pretty good fighter. But when Joe Rogan talks about him, you're going to think that Justin Gaethje is like Ilia Topuria on how technical he is. Now, this one is kind of excused because Joe Rogan was talking to Justin Gaethje at the time when he said this. But he was saying people just don't realize on how technical you are, Justin Gaethje. Everything you do is so technical. So technical. They just don't realize. But you don't have to be a genius to realize that Justin Gaethje isn't that technical. I mean, he overswings majority of his punches. In the Charles Oliveira fight, he literally throws a punch, overswings so much he falls over. How is that technical? And let's not also forget when he was fighting Max Holloway in the first round. I think it was the first round. I could be wrong. But there's a moment where he runs towards Max Holloway and he literally slips and falls to his knees. He slips. That is not being technical. That's just being wild. And that's how Justin Gaethje has made it to like the top of lightweight, or at least the top 5, because he's just a super wild fighter. He can take a good punch and give a good punch right back. And that's how he wins a lot of his fights. He turns them into like slugfests, and he just swings, and catches them. Sometimes, though, he is technical. Like when he was fighting Dustin Poirier for their second fight, he was pretty technical, and he landed that head kick. I do think that head kick was a fluke, though. I think Dustin probably beats Justin Gaethje like 8 times out of 10, I'd say. I mean, like, this whole Joe Rogan thing is actually just insane. I know I talked about him in the beginning of the video, but in the next podcast episode with Joe Rogan, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Joe Rogan was like, Torres Finney, his striking is so good. You know, he's probably a better striker than GSP. While we're on that topic, did you guys know that Joe Rogan said that Jorge Masvidal could beat prime GSP? That might be one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But Joe Rogan says a lot of dumbest things I've ever heard. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I know I'm hating on Joe Rogan a lot, but I actually like Joe Rogan. He's alright. He's not that bad. But that's going to be the end of the video. If you guys want to see more videos like this, I have a video on why John Jones has been to a Diddy party. And I also have a video on why I think Ilia Topuria will be humbled at lightweight. So if you like this video and want to see more, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and watch those videos. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Shama.